The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
At one time, I was taking 21 pills a day, and those were all psych meds.
Chase Smotherman has PTSD. He admits he had a rough period, in and out of prison, taking prescription meds to treat his condition. 3 years ago, the state issued him a medical marijuana card, and now he says he's back on track.
Since I've been on medical marijuana, I've been able to successfully open up my company. My life has been completely different ever since.
This is called Banana Kush. Now, once this plant matures, it can be used to treat anything from PTSD to chronic pain. It's a product like this, Chase says, has changed his life. Since 2013, the number of New Mexicans issued medical marijuana cards has almost doubled. The biggest jump from 2014 to 2015, the list grew by 7,200 people.
It's considered now real medicine. People are using it for chronic pain. They've used it for PTSD successfully. Cancer patients are using it to control their nausea and vomiting.
Robert Burgett runs Peace Cannabis Cards Division, which helps patients get into this program. He's not surprised by the increase and sees a lot of New Mexicans who don't want to rely on pills.
They're looking for an option. They're tired of it. They're tired of that way of life.
That's Smotherman's story. He says he's free from an old life and never wants to go back. Now, the state's medical marijuana program has been around since 2007. There are 21 qualifying conditions, and you can find them on this application, anywhere from ALS to cancer, Crohn's disease, or epilepsy. And of course, as you just heard, Chase suffers from PTSD. That also qualifies under the state's regulations. If you want a copy of this application, you can find it on the Department of Health's website. Reporting for you live tonight, I'm Royal Day. KOAT, Action 7 News.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Hey, we're back after the Bernie rally. Well, that was something else yesterday out there in East Lansing at the Breslin Center. What a fantastic time we had. I think if I get a chance, I'd maybe go to another one of those. I had a great time at this event. I can't tell you enough about that. You know, I think, I don't know. I just want to do that some more. So I took Jace, the service dog, out there. And I volunteered with the Bernie camp yesterday. That's why we didn't do a regular show. Instead, you got a live feed of most of Bernie's speech. I started using Facebook. I started Facebooking that as a live stream to Facebook. And I knew I'd have to do it at least twice because Facebook only lets you go like a half an hour at a time and then it shuts you down. So I have to start it up again and relabel it and do all that kind of thing. And it wouldn't appear in our normal place here through Spreaker. It would have been really on my personal Facebook page rather than on the Full Melt's Facebook page because, I don't know, I guess that's where I went to go live. Can I go live on the other page? I know. Let me just look real quick to see if I can do that because it's nice to know. And then, because I had the service dog with me, I was busy using him, because it was real obvious. It was easy to spot me. Just trying to go to the Full Melt's page. Will it let me go live here? Let's see if I publish. It will let me go live. I should have went there. I guess I should have went there. Yeah, you can only go live stream to Facebook if you've got an iPhone. The Androids don't do it yet. I don't know of any other phone that does it. I know, at least through Facebook. You can probably live stream other stuff and post a link to it on Facebook. But the nice thing about Facebook's live stream is that when you see it in the feed, if you're on the air at the time, it's already moving around. Like depending on how your phone's set up. You could tell it, don't move around if I see the post. Don't move, don't download that data. But I'm always connected to Wi-Fi, so I don't care. So I let it download the data, which lets the image move if it's a live, stream. And so, but that didn't work so well because, and it had to have been something with the bandwidth there because there's like 11,000 people at this Bernie Sanders event. And the pole there, the tower there, there's probably only like one tower that's actually serving that building, and it's got to get overloaded. They got to put some more capacity on that tower. The 4G LTE tower's got to get overloaded. Before Bernie started talking, I was doing some live streaming of the speakers who were on before him. There were two. And during that period, I had no problem with maintaining a connection. The moment Bernie started talking, about, 30 seconds in, it started saying, you got a low connection. You got a weak connection. I'm like, no, I don't. I looked, and I've got like 4 or 5 bars. That's not weak at all. I think it was bandwidth. I think, there was too much water trying to come through that pipe, and it wasn't happening. So there were, and it must be that way too, because if you Google that event, you'll see a crap ton of other live feeds and other full videos, and I don't know. They had to have been using a lot of bandwidth there. But so with the dog, because I was easily spottable with the dog, I volunteered to take the elderly and the infants and most of all the disabled out of line, escort them out of line, and bring them to the front so that they could get screened and get in the building with a little more ease. And also, it was freezing out there yesterday. It was inappropriate for the elderly or for children or for handicapped people who are often exposed in ways that, normally dressed people are not, to get them into the building so that they could get screened by Secret Service and off to a special area that can accommodate their needs. But so I had a chance to do that. I'll tell you what, I froze my balls off in that line. But I also had a chance to collect some signatures for Am I Legalize? And then we did the live stream for the show, most of Bernie's speech. I actually did that from the area from which I was seated, which luckily, actually, I was on the second level, and it was pointed directly. I pointed the phone kind of directly at the speaker system, because otherwise you get muffled out by the audience like that. See, most of the time, a news feed comes from a place that's away from the audience, and the microphones have been dumbed away from the crowd noise, because if you don't do that, you get overwhelmed by crowd noise, and you've already got a speaker that is not, rather than being plugged directly into our source for audio, you're hearing it over a loudspeaker and then back into a microphone and then back through our system, and it makes the speaker's audio really crappy, and then you get the great audio that's not crappy at all from the crowd, and it's much louder. So it worked out okay. It's not the best audio in the world, but it's certainly discernible. It's listenable. You can hear what he's saying, and it's not hard to listen to. I can tell you this too, that there were the amount of love being spread for Bernie Sanders yesterday was amazing. I mean, I like Bernie Sanders and all. But I just had no idea that there were this many Bernie Sanders, like, fanatics. It's just weird seeing, like, a, 70-some-odd-year-old grandpa up there with his, shiny spot in the back showing. And everybody is cheering him on like he is the latest thing, the greatest thing since, sliced bread. Really awesome time out at the Bernie Sanders event. I hold, not as much hope for the Sanders campaign as I did before. But from the inside, I'll tell you what, there were 150 volunteers at least that showed up to help with this one event in East Lansing. And I just looks like Bernie's coming back too. Of course, we've got the big election in Michigan here on March 8th. We're exactly a week after the first Super Tuesday, which was, 2 days ago. And so what did they say? What did Sanders say? That where else are they going here? He's going to be in at the Streeter Center in Traverse City. That's Friday, March 4th, so that's tomorrow. And also he's going to be at Grand Valley State University Fieldhouse Arena on West Campus Drive in Allendale. So he's got 2 more appearances tomorrow, and I imagine there are probably more to come. We do know that when is the debate on CNN in Flint? Because Sanders and Clinton are both going to be there. Sanders, Clinton, debate, CNN, Flint. I love Google. I spelled Flint flaunt. February. That's February 7th. Looking for the March. I know it's in March. I just don't know exactly which day. It's got to be before the. It's March 6th. I knew it had to be before the election here, because it would be only. Why would they have that event if they're going to do it here? Why would they do it after the election in Michigan? It would make a lot of sense to do it before, and they are. They're doing it 2 days before on March 6th, which is what, 2 days away? 3 days away. Craziness. I just, there's so there were 150 of us volunteers out there, and oh, come on, Mr. Mouse, don't give me a hard time, Mr. Mouse. Don't make mincemeat out of that, mouse. I just showed off my age. Go look that quote up. Now I've lost track of what I was telling you. So this event's coming up with Sanders and Clinton, and I think there's this, like I said, 150 volunteers out there just for this one event, and that's a small estimate. It's probably closer to 200, or it's somewhere in between 150 and 200. And so the amount of enthusiasm for those inside of those volunteers, we broke up into 4 little groups of 40 people apiece or 50 people apiece, something like that. And it was just amazing to see the amount of enthusiasm being spread. And so part of the job of those volunteers was to get people at the Sanders event to knock doors and make phone calls for the Sanders campaign, sign up additional volunteers. What a great method. I mean, that's real grassroots working for you, is what that is. Now, I know there were a lot of people. I mean, they had a crap ton of paper out there, signing people up, getting their phone numbers and their email addresses, and getting organized, even in the face of the Clinton steamroller, which obviously started applying its pressure and heat on Super Tuesday some 2 days ago. Now, as they move into the next section of this fight, which is coming right here. It's already coming up on us. You're going to see a different campaign than you saw with the Republicans. But I don't even care what happened on the Republican side, because we're much better off with a Republican president on the question of cannabis, especially as it comes to the selection of a Supreme Court candidate to get nominated and confirmed by the Senate, probably by the coming president.
You're getting the full melt.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dorr Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
You can find us here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at thefullmelt.com. Sign up for our iTunes podcast subscription by finding the iTunes logo at the top of the page there. Click and subscribe. It's just that simple. 7:20 now in the evening. A lot of people listen to this show on podcast. If you happen to be listening live, please call our nosmell.com. Phone lines at 1-844-420-TALK. That's 844-420-8255. It is indeed a toll-free line. Now, you're still getting these people, and these are always opinions, and they're always opinions, and sometimes you got to sniff them out to see if this is an opinion from a senator on the state level anywhere in the country, or a representative that is genuine. In other words, he's just been sold hook, line, and sinker the bill of goods on the prohibitionist tip, and then or it could be the other way around, where he's really a shill. And I say that, what do I mean by shill? What I mean is he's somebody that's working for the prohibitionist cause because there's some investment or business angle to protect there. And so in that spirit comes this story today out of the Deseret News at DeseretNews.com. They've got a picture of Senator Mark Madsen as he testified before the committee to consider proposals that would amend Utah law to permit the use of marijuana or marijuana products for medical purposes. And this was back in October of last year. Now, Mark Madsen's Senate Bill 073, medical marijuana bill, is now in the House. The pro-medical marijuana group contends that it is for those in pain and suffering. The bill has been changed only to allow pills or oils extracted from the whole plant. Now, you see, they'll let you consume this orally in the form of capsules with the cannabis in it, or oils or other extracts probably from the whole plant. Ironically, there's a vigorous illegal economy in extracting oils from whole plant marijuana to increase the THC, the main hallucinogenic compound in marijuana. And everybody wants to focus on that like that's some magical button, right? Like there's something about that is strange and unusual to the rest of the world, such as that it must be made illegal. I don't get, well, I do, but this is a substance that has never deserved that badge. There's good evidence that allowing medical marijuana in medicine cabinets will result in giving more teens access to marijuana, just like pills in medicine cabinets can easily be taken by family teenagers. This is what they claimed in Utah. And I suppose from one standpoint, you're absolutely right. The problem with your thinking is that the marijuana, should it happen to have been gotten into the wrong hands, isn't toxic. It's not poisonous. Nobody's going to get hurt by this. Do that with something in your medicine cabinet now and see how many of those pills they can take before something major shuts down or fucks up. I mean, that's just the plain, truth of the matter. So, although it's a sexy sell on the side of, well, hey, this is just going to give more access to kids. No, it's not. They already have the access across the street, next door, down the road, and in the church. I mean, they've got this access anywhere they want it. There's no special access because you happen to have it in your medicine cabinet, and I don't know one person who smokes cannabis, either recreationally or for medical purposes, that happens to keep it there. None of them keep their cannabis in the medicine cabinet. And I would suggest that if you have narcotics and opiates and other dangerous medicine, barbiturates, or I don't care what the drug is, if you've got it in your medicine cabinet and you have kids around, you're a fool. You're just foolish. Those things should be locked up and kept out of the reach of children. It's not like a kid can't open up the medicine cabinet, especially if they become, teenagers. Once you turn 11, 12, 13, you're opening those cabinets freely. Maybe at 8, 9, it's still a little high, but it's not easy. It's not that difficult to get a stool out and open up the medicine cabinet. I mean, kids are smart. Good Lord. So Senator Madsen's bill allows children to be exposed to drug use since child welfare is not allowed to remove a child from a home where it's used. It prohibits, quote, a court from discriminating against a parent using it in a child custody case based on the parent's lawful possession or use of cannabis product. In Colorado, there's been a jump in marijuana-related traffic fatalities, they say. There's no nationwide standard to test for impairment driving under THC influences. Recent court cases have thrown out charges because there's no good roadside sobriety test for marijuana. In one recent case, the story says, the person charged with the impaired driving in Colorado claimed that marijuana helped her pain and therefore made it safer for her to drive. The jury found her innocent. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence that says marijuana has significantly medicinal properties, but rigorous and peer-reviewed scientific studies are lacking. Yeah, you know why they're lacking? Because they don't let you frickin' do them, that's why. It drives me crazy when they make these arguments knowing that there's a roadblock put up by the same side. We don't really know if using just cannabidiol or all of the plant will have negative effects on patients or their pregnancy or babies. Look, people who are pregnant shouldn't be consuming substances of any type, in my opinion. I don't think you should be drinking beer, wine, or alcohol. I don't think you should be smoking cannabis. I don't think you should be taking sleeping medication. I think if you're pregnant, you're pretty much going to have to go through 9 months of I'm not taking anything. Unless your pediatrician has specifically said you could, or your obstetrician. Seriously. We really don't know. So what else here? The disastrous outcomes of using thalidomide and DES are good reasons to not try to go around the FDA oversight. Oh, really? These are nowhere near the same. You can't. These are comparing apples and oranges. This, remember at the beginning when I started reading this article, I said, look, you got to really discern between, is this somebody that's just been sold the prohibition message, hook, line, and sinker, and just believes it, foolishly, naive, or is this somebody that is a shill? And it's clear to me, based on these arguments, that this is a shill. This is somebody who's currently making money off of prohibition. This is a group or a entity of some sort that is crafting this language. What happens if cannabidiol turns out to have dangerous effects on unborn children of pregnant women? Will medical insurance companies be pressured into paying for marijuana, and will insurance cover any injuries or negative effects of using marijuana? You know what? In this state, we specifically said insurance companies don't have to cover marijuana products. And I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea from the standpoint that usually prescription medication or medication that's been recommended for you, especially for chronic illness, comes with two other footnotes. Number one, the chronic user's probably already been bilked of any cash because they're in a chronic medical condition and have been for some time. And then number two, how do you then pay for these expensive medications, in this case, cannabis? If you're a cancer patient and you need CBD or in a strong concentration in a whole plant extract, such as RSO, otherwise known as Rick Simpson oil, or even just a whole plant extract otherwise, because it doesn't have to be specifically RSO. It could be extracted with any other number of measures. But if you need a gram a day of this extract, remember that's a concentrate. If you need that much for 60 days in a row, if you were to go to a dispensary and ask for a concentrate and ask for a gram of concentrate, it's going to cost you in the neighborhood of $60. That's what the going rate at a dispensary is. If you're to average it around, there's some more and there's some less. But I'm just saying if you were to average it around, that's what the going rate of a concentrate is. So now you take that concentrate, that price, and you're talking $60 a day times 60 days. So, and then you're going to get what? You're going to get $3,600. Now, if that's what it's going to cost you to try and cure your cancer, because many people look at this as, oh, it's, for cancer patients, it's great for their nausea, makes them feel better from the chemo or the radiation, or if they happen to have been past those therapies and are on their way out the door, it comforts and calms them, makes them feel better. Although those are all great things, that's not what I lean towards cannabis for with a cancer patient. We're trying to make that tumor shrink, or those spots, those lesions go away. And there's a fascinating whole story. We'll get a guest on or two to talk about this. Somebody pro and somebody con. We'll have them discuss this during a segment on the show. But the idea is, if you're unfamiliar with this process, is that, so theoretically speaking, because I'm not a doctor and none of these procedures are medical in nature, I consider them supplemental. I consider them supplemental from the standpoint of, the same way you take a vitamin or the same way you take any other supplement. Food supplement is what it is. So I consider it dietary. I don't necessarily, because there's none of these other, there's no studying behind it, and there's no, aside from what we know from that standpoint, how much it takes to make these things go away, it can't be considered a medical thing. You can't prescribe it medically. You can't say that there's a cure for the situation, even though once you're done doing the therapy with this supplement, the cancer goes away. And the reason is because they've discovered that specifically CBD goes in and regulates cellular life. So in the human endocannabinoid system, CBD is being kicked out by that system and being sent through your body in various and sundry ways. And in the instance of cellular regulation, CBD goes in and it's like the master programmer. It says, okay, here's the basic information that you need. And somehow it translates this. It either is like a reset button for the cell. I'm not sure what exactly is going on, but what it's going back in and doing is re-regulating the cell. So in cancer, you've got a situation where cellular tissue is growing out of control. Sometimes it's growing faster than normal tissue, sometimes not. But even if it's not growing faster than normal tissue, what happens is the cell doesn't die and is being replaced by another cell that is also cancerous, meaning it's also not going to die because it doesn't have a natural life cycle. It's just going to keep living despite the fact that it should have died and been replaced by a new cell in normal cellular, not respiration, but cellular division and replacement. And so you've got these cells, they'll divide and they keep dividing and then they never die. So CBD goes in and gives it some specific instructions to those old cells and tells them either your life's already over, or if it wasn't over already, here's the time when you need to commit suicide. This is when you need to stop living. And that's what's going on. The cells are dying en masse. And then you have this big space left over where a tumor used to be, and you don't see any more. If you're looking at it on an X-ray, it's usually a white color. If you look at it compared to another X-ray, the white's all gone, and there are now black spots there, black holes where the white used to be. And that's what you're looking to have happen here. But it may cost you on the first attempt, because if you don't take the whole gram a day for at least the 60 days, you may not be successful with this. And it's also something you're going to have to ramp up tolerance to, because CBD is a heavy sedative if it's not balanced by THC. And then when it is balanced by THC, it's still going to be enough in concentrate. It's enough in volume that it's still going to make you extremely, sleepy. And it may make you so uncomfortably high that you won't want to take it again. And that's not the goal here. We're not trying to make you high. We're not trying to make you uncomfortable. We're trying to get to a place where your body has a tolerance so it can take that for 60 days. But the point is related to this story, it's going to cost you $3,600 if you got to pay for it out of pocket. Now, if you manage to go start a garden and grow it for yourself, you could do that and maybe do it for a little bit less, but you got to consider you got to buy lights. You got the electricity involved for like 5 months of growing. And this is just for the single batch you're trying to make. And then you've got the cost of the genetics. You got to buy those, acquire them somewhere. You've got soil or soil medium, or in lieu of that, you're going to have some kind of hydroponic system, because presumably you're not going to wait until summer to start this going outside. If you've got cancer, you want to go at it right now. And if you got to go at it right now, if you're doing it yourself, you already got to wait for 5 whole months before you can even begin to make the extract. So these people in Utah going to have to stop and figure out that, in the light of what you're arguing against, because you're really arguing against the safety of these people, because obviously they've got a disease that is going to likely kill them if it's not checked and balanced. And I'm telling you, Western medicine isn't doing it. It's not even doing it to a 60 or 70. The percent of people who die from cancer in a relatively short span of time, given the first 5 years after their diagnosis and treatment, many of them die during that period because the cancer consumes them, and the therapy either prolonged their life a little while miserably or failed them altogether, and they just die. It doesn't work that way if you've got something working against the actual cancer and not your body. There's also anecdotal evidence that it seems to suggest that marijuana may be a gateway drug. Oh, good Lord. Another slippery slope. Can't have that, for crying out loud, not in the face of dying people. But it does not prove that it's a gateway drug, just as it does not prove that marijuana is a medicine. Anecdotal stories should not set policy, says the article. Another argument is that people have safely used marijuana for hundreds of years. Tobacco was used for centuries and was even considered to be a medicine at one time itself. If you want to hear the rest of this article, you can find it at Desiree News. More news, politics, culture, and entertainment coming up after the break.
You're getting the full melt.
I've seen things no man should bear, and those that every man should dare. From the beaches of Normandy to the far reaches of the earth. In my life, I have lived millions of lives. I've outrun robots and danced with dinosaurs. I've faced the faces of fear and fortitude and witnessed great beauty in the making. I've kept the company of kings and queens, but I'm no royalty or saint. I've traveled, trekked, wandered, and roamed, only to find myself right where I belong.
Jeep. See your authorized Jeep retailer for details on how you can become a Jeep owner.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future.
The good things were put on yellow magnets, and the bad ones on blue.
The results show
The past was a pretty even mix of good and bad.
Yet the future was almost all good things.
Now that you've seen the results of this experiment,
what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be down times.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com. or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. You're damn tootin' it is. And I got to say that this business with athletes promoting cannabis now for many reasons, it's gone beyond the whole question of just using it for CTE for football or for medical purposes as related to pain and inflammation in injuries sustained on the gridiron. It's gone beyond that. It's gone right into the question of whether or not it's something that you could use that helps with the workout. I'm not even kidding. I'm not going to go into the story on it because I'll just let you read it for yourself. Go over to the Washington Post and check out these famous athletes advocating for marijuana as a workout tool. You know what? I got to delve into it a little bit. I won't read you the whole story, but I want to, Washington, D.C. recently, they're celebrating their 1 year mark now. The district recently marking the first anniversary of its legalization of recreational marijuana. And, activity there hardly gets more physical and grueling than professional wrestling. And at 45, Rob Van Dam not only has been at it for well over 2 decades, he's performed at the highest level it has to offer. Van Dam's real name is Robert Stakowski. He was given his ring name by promoter who thought he resembled the Belgian martial arts movie star Jean-Claude Van Damme. Not his real name either, by the way. Van Damme once held the Extreme Championship Wrestling and World Wrestling Entertainment Championships simultaneously and is one of the most acrobatic performers pro wrestling has ever seen. He remains a fan favorite to this day. So apparently he's out there promoting the idea. He says, I've been known to apply smoking to everything throughout the day, he said. In particular, marijuana has helped him in thinking good thoughts because in front of millions of people that paid to see you at your best, who expect you to be in action figure shape and condition on that particular night for that particular moment, you've got to deliver. There's widespread agreement that marijuana can put users in a relaxed and positive frame of mind, although some can experience feelings of anxiety and paranoia. And for that reason, it could be considered a performance-enhancing drug, providing an athlete serenity and confidence he or she might not otherwise have had. An interesting story. It's a lengthy story, and it talks about other professionals in the sports world who are looking at cannabis as a wellness tool for the workout. Isn't that interesting? Now, as we talk about other cannabis news, we've always got this thing going in the background. What's this time? It's like this ticking going on. What's going to happen? What is going to happen? There's a shoe going to drop really soon. But the time that's going to go on between here and when that shoe drops is going to seem like it is in slow motion forever. It's only this November when this country is going to vote in many cities and many states to legalize cannabis across the board. But not only that, there are so many more other states outside of the box of people who are looking at cannabis only as an extract low in THC, high in CBD, and available to kids with epilepsy. That is not what the medical marijuana world looks like. It is a portion of it. It is an important portion of it. But it is a small portion of the overall medical marijuana community. And so this ticking time bomb that's going off, because it could be a time bomb that goes off and explodes in celebration. And what I mean by that is, look, we could be celebrating the release of cannabis from the grips of prohibition. And that's what I think everybody anticipates, and rightfully so, because it's the pressure's been building for too long, and now we're at the tipping point. Now the pressure is so strong that something is liable to burst. In fact, it's nearly predictable. And the question is, do you get a Donald Trump Vice President Christie in office that say, no, There will never be medical marijuana anything. Or will you get a Clinton administration, second time around, and with different gender attached, or a Sanders administration, woo-woo on Sanders, hoping still strongly for Sanders, because he's the strongest hope on this question. Hillary just kicks this around like it's an old dog, because that's what it is to her. I mean, she's an older woman, but she's not that enlightened. She's educated, she's experienced, she's worldly, she's crafty. She's good with answering questions. For crying out loud, she's a lawyer. But on this question, she avoids this. She doesn't sink her teeth into it with any kind of passion the way that Sanders does. And everything that I've heard come out of her mouth regarding this situation, because I wholeheartedly believe that at least from the standpoint of electoral votes, that you're going to see the Trump ticket become the nominee ticket. And then there might be a fight. There might be a really strong fight. They might try jerking around those delegates, right? Those delegates, that's really what they are. They're delegates in the primary. They might start jerking around those delegates, and under threat or pressure, despite the fact that they've already made sworn promise to stand for that candidate that got the votes that got them the delegate. They might be pressured by the party to change their vote. And that's something that hasn't happened in the Republican Party since like the 1930s. Around the same time, interestingly enough, that cannabis prohibition came about. It was at the end of prohibition that cannabis took over the reigning federal moniker for beat up the public. Because that's exactly what they did. Harry Anslinger took over the old alcohol administration, the old alcohol bureau that was banished or abolished pretty much or made powerless by the 14th Amendment. That he took that workforce that was formerly out there with axes and hammers and smashing barrels and chasing rum runners in boats and in cars across the country, to the likes of Al Capone in Chicago and the gangs, all that stuff. When the federal employees were chasing those people around, were made pretty much jobless. They didn't have a real job anymore because that was their exclusive job, to go beat up on the alcohol people. But then along came Anslinger, who said, oh, you know what? We can convert this into marijuana. And there's enough racism going on here. Enough people are concerned about the black folk and about the brown folk that we can, and we know the black and the brown folk love their cannabis. We'll call it marijuana. And we'll say it's the evil demon seed, and we'll make a propaganda film, and we'll sell that to the public, and we'll reemploy these alcohol people as DEA agents, enforce them drug laws. And that's exactly what happened. So there, a lot of people know that story. A lot of people don't know that story. It's going to change. It's going to change this year, and it's not that far away. In fact, the tipping point will be known here when we get to the close of the nominees. When the nominees are only one for each party, you know, when the potential candidates are whittled to one, then we'll really have a grip on what the polling says, what states have done. We'll be able to apply some data to candidates because you'll actually have a face-to-face matchup instead of question mark, matchup, question mark, matchup, or matchup, question mark, matchup, question mark. You'll have some harder data and some harder figures to work with, some more known values. And then we can progress forward to what does that mean for cannabis? And then you got the whole sideline question of the Supreme Court thing. Now, I got to look it up. I'm not going to do it now because there's just no time. But I've got to remember to sit down and research the topic of the Supreme Court because I've said it before. I believe they put this issue on hold. I believe they stopped the hearing. They postponed the hearing on the question between Colorado and Nebraska, and who's the other one? Kansas, making the argument that marijuana is spilling across the Colorado border and causing harm and damage to those neighboring states. I say, and the president has said and asked them to pull back on this issue because in the long run, it's a states' rights issue. And if you've got a difference of opinion with a neighboring state, you better work out agreements with the neighboring state about how to better enforce that border when it comes to that substance. These are, again, questions that have already been posed by alcohol and solved historically. It's really not difficult business. And you didn't see that happening. Did it happen? I don't think it did. See, alcohol became unprohibited much in the same way that cannabis is currently. And that's why at this point you already know that the water's rolling downhill. You're not going to push that flood back up a hill. It's just not going to happen. States began legalizing alcohol, first medicinally and then just across the board. They said, screw the federal government's position. You want to come here and threaten us? Come on and do it by yourself because we're not going to help you. And they didn't. And then when lots of other states said the same thing, the federal government said, you know what? Hands off on this. We're repealing the 14th Amendment, and then we're going to walk away from it. So 14th or is it 18th? What is it? Alcohol Amendment. See, now I'm doubting myself on fact. I hate that. Prohibition Amendment. It's a 21? Is it 20? It's the 18th. That's what I thought. It was the 18th. It's the 18th Amendment. So they keep calling it the 14th. It's not. It's the 18th Amendment. I knew something. The bell wasn't tolling quite right. It was sharp or flat. I couldn't tell which one, but it wasn't the right note. That's all I know. Oh, it's going to change. It's going to change. Something's going to happen this year. In just a few short months away at the end of this summer, we'll know what the answer to this question is. And then the rest will happen very quickly. The rest of the nation will fall in line behind the subject of whether cannabis has either been made illegal again by federal edict or modified by Congress, or they just let the states do what the hell they want to do.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a NoSmell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about NoSmell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com. or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. 571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show. All right, then, only a few short minutes left in the program today. And I think, this is hang on a second here. Yep, marijuana's not medicine. Famous athletes. That's right. Legal marijuana industry poised for major U.S. expansion by the end of 2016. And that's, before the break, what I was leading up to. This story in rawstory.com's website. Legal marijuana is becoming more and more entrenched in the United States each year, and 2016 looks to be no exception. In fact, some observers say it could be a tipping point. Ding, ding, ding. Raising my hand. Pick me. For an ever-growing industry already worth billions with a B of dollars. Donald Trump, eat your heart out. By the end of the year, nearly a dozen states will decide whether to legalize pot. That's right. I said nearly a dozen. With 7 to determine whether they will allow recreational use. 7 states in question on the recreational end. You've already got 4. 4 and 7 is 10. We're 1/5 the way to the whole nation, aren't we? Already 23 out of 50 states, plus the nation's capital, allow pot in some form, whether it's for medical or recreational purposes. At the beginning of 2016, 86% of Americans lived in a state permitting cannabis use in some form. That's an important note to make. As acceptance of the drug grows across the United States, so too does sales, which are expected to hit nearly $22 billion by 2020. It's going to be a very, very competitive market in the next 5 years, said John Kagia, a director of industry analytics at New Frontier, a firm specializing with cannabis business. While possession, sale, and consumption of marijuana remains illegal at the federal level, it is permitted for recreational use in 4 U.S. states: Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, plus the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C. According to Kagia, 2016 will be the tipping point for pot, with 11 states slated to decide whether to allow it in one form or another. Western states of Colorado and Washington pioneered recreational marijuana legalization in 2012, and sales have increased 30% per year on average since then. The United States, according to New Frontier and the ArcView Group, another firm focusing on analyzing the cannabis industry. U.S. pot sales climbing to $4.6 billion in 2014 and are expected to reach $21.8 billion in 2020, New Frontier says. The explosion in sales is due mainly to the legalization of recreational pot in some states, although medical marijuana represented 92% of all pot sales in 2014. Its total share is expected to fall to 47% in just 4 years. Budding entrepreneurs are coming to the market because that market for pot is in full bloom now, thanks to burgeoning industrial grow operations, marijuana edibles, and a higher demand for equipment from those who want to grow or consume cannabis at home. And while entrepreneurs see dollar signs behind every joint rolled, so do state governments that stand to reap massive gains in the form of taxes. Last year, Colorado earning some $135 million in taxes and licensing fees on nearly $1 billion in pot sales, according to the Denver Post. The state of Washington, meanwhile, took in $70 million on statewide pot revenue, totaling $257 million, a number that came in lower than expected after a pot shortage. As America falls for pot, competition has become increasingly fierce, and the variation in regulations and taxes from state to state has given rise to some tension. You can say that again. The amount of pot a person can grow varies as well, with up to 4 plants allowed in Oregon and 6 plants in Colorado, but none in the state of Washington. 6 plants are allowed in the U.S. capital of Washington, D.C., where marijuana advocates celebrated the city's 1-year anniversary on Friday for legalizing pot. But the U.S. Congress, which has some authority in the capital's local governance, has prevented the city from regulating its pot market, which means buying and selling marijuana is still illegal. The next president, who will be elected in November, could tip the balance in either direction at the federal level, experts told AFP at a marijuana trade show called Canna Show, just held over a week ago in Washington. For those entering the marijuana industry, the market has sparked particular worries and uncertainties, like the fact that all payments must be made in cash since banking services are not extended to the pot industry, the risk of congressional intervention, or even a price war. Moreover, growing cannabis, or cannaculture, as it is called, is a commonly costly endeavor, with plants needing gallons of water and a constantly warm environment, and thus electricity. According to the New Frontier, cannabis is the greediest of crops in terms of electricity, accounting for 1% of all electricity used in the United States, same as about 1.7 million homes at an annual cost of $6 billion. Electricity accounts for up to 50% of the wholesale price of cannabis. You can say that again as well. Despite these pitfalls, pot proponents are quick to point out that legalization of the substance has its societal virtues, such as putting an end to some discriminatory arrests. In the U.S. Capitol, for example, 91% of those arrested for marijuana-related offenses before legalization were black. Legalizing marijuana also keeps down overcrowding of courts and prisons. Retired Baltimore Police Commander Neil Franklin, who's part of the advocacy group Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, an organization of officers who speak out against current drug policy, said that 500,000 to 600,000 people are arrested each year for cannabis in the United States. And we thank Raw Story for that. You can again find that story by Agents France. Oh no, this is that's RS News Service. Who wrote this story? I can't see who wrote the story. Yeah, that's problematic for me because I don't like it when an author is unknown. Let's see if it's at the bottom. Sometimes they bury the author's name at the bottom. And it's not there as well. Report typos and corrections to rawstory.com. There's no author attributed to this story. I guess it's because they're repeating most of it from another publication. This is a republication on Raw Story. It really surprises me, though, because it's only attributed to Raw Story and not another publisher. Well, they give the publisher attribution, but they don't. It's who's that? Forgot their name now. Doesn't matter. New Frontier. So much of this they're quoting the New Frontier on. And in fact, the whole article may be New Frontier's article, but I can't find an author, and that puzzles me. It really actually bugs me because normally I won't talk about stories that have no attribution as to author. A couple of other quick points before the program ends. In Orlando, the state house is now looking at medical marijuana bills. See, this is all in the face of they're afraid there. And they do this all the time at the legislative level, especially in Republican turf. Oh, don't come along and start crafting law for us because if you manage to get somewhere close to pulling that off, we're going to try and pull the blanket out from underneath you, the rug from underneath you. It's going to come out, and you're going to come spilling to the ground because we're going to pass our own law, and then nobody will need to sign your stupid petition. Or you won't really need to vote on it because we already did it ourselves, even though it isn't what you wanted to do at the ballot box. This is what you're seeing Florida do now. They don't like the fact that people are looking at getting a medical marijuana bill done for sure this time because they know it's going to happen. And so now they're starting to look at changing this themselves. And I'll bet you they managed to do it before the next coming election cycle. Also, the Weed Blog talks about bills to criminalize or legalize marijuana were introduced into the Michigan Senate. We talked about that on this program. And the Pennsylvania House Speaker is ready for medical marijuana's debate. And he is amping up the rhetoric in the favor of patients, and I thank him for doing that. I think we've had this representative from Pennsylvania, at the Pennsylvania House level, on before. Until tomorrow, we'll see you next time on The Full Melt Show.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.